And again. And again.
Police
officers!
What the hell?
Yeah, bang back. Bang back. Thank you.
Nice one, nice, you got it.
To the public, Devontae James was a success story. A boxing coach, a jet setter, an influencer flaunting luxury holidays and designer labels. But beneath the gold watches and tropical backdrops lay something far darker, a transatlantic drug empire masked behind weight loss shakes and gym culture. At the heart of it, £7 million worth of crystal meth smuggled into Britain in tubs labelled as protein supplements. What seemed like a fitness brand was in fact the UK's largest ever methamphetamine import case, cracked wide open after a parcel arriving from Los Angeles at Stansted Airport set off alarm bells. Hidden within were nearly a kilo of crystal meth and 2 kilos of cannabis, expertly concealed, professionally labelled, and bound for Nottingham. Behind the operation stood James, flanked by a cast of trusted lieutenants and corrupted couriers. The network spanned continents, involved forged shipping documents, and operated with chilling precision. Yet, as their profits soared and their Instagram profiles glowed with wealth, detectives from Nottinghamshire Police, UK Border Force, and the US Homeland Security were closing in. This was not just a drug case, it was the unraveling of an empire built on addiction, illusion, and ultimately, ruin. Before the mansions and Rolex watches, Devontae James was a respected figure in Nottingham's boxing circles, a coach, a mentor, a man known for discipline and drive. But behind the reputation was a hunger for more. While many around him assumed his success came from sport, the reality was far grittier. James, 29, was not just training fighters, he was laying the groundwork for a multi-million-pound criminal enterprise. Exactly when James crossed from athlete to architect of a drug network is hard to pinpoint, but whispers in Nottingham began surfacing as early as 2021. Associates noted his sudden influx of wealth, his globetrotting to Dubai, Central America, and Thailand, all destinations popular with traffickers looking to evade detection. His gym quickly became more than a place for sparring. It was a recruiting ground and command center. He built trust through charm and manipulation, positioning himself as a leader both in sport and in crime. By early 2022, James had begun tapping contacts across borders. The operation's first trials involved smaller parcels, cannabis and counterfeit supplements, sent through courier firms under false names. The test runs were successful and emboldened James. He sought out individuals with access, courier workers, logistics coordinators, and people with clean records who could receive parcels without raising suspicion. Jesse Colo, a manager at a courier office in Dagenham, became a key player. With Colo's help, James developed a method of forging shipping labels that masked Class A drugs as harmless dietary products. The move from cannabis to crystal meth was no accident. Methamphetamine, while rare in the UK market, was potent, addictive, and highly profitable. Importing it via America meant high purity, a lethal product with a premium street value. James wasn't just selling drugs, he was importing destruction under the guise of health. By the end of 2022, the groundwork was laid. The real operation, lucrative, elaborate, and lethal, was about to begin. Once the blueprint was in place, James began assembling his inner circle, not through threats or brute force, but through loyalty, money, and a shared ambition. At the heart of the network were 3 key lieutenants: Rake Thomas, 28, Lamar Taylor, 32, and Can Raymond, 27. These men weren't mere foot soldiers. They were organizers, enforcers, and trusted confidants who helped expand James's vision into a multi-layered trafficking syndicate. Thomas was the operational brain, overseeing logistics and communication. Taylor had ties to local distributors and was instrumental in maintaining street-level control. Raymond, known for his discretion, handled the dangerous job of liaising with international contacts, including a still unidentified figure believed to be operating out of the Middle East. This unknown player was thought to be the ultimate source of supply, using US exports as the primary pipeline into the UK. The gang's setup was modern and meticulous. Encrypted messaging apps were used for all communication. Deliveries were scheduled with military precision, with multiple addresses used to avoid suspicion. Innocent-seeming homes across Nottingham became unwitting staging posts, where parcels would be received, broken down, and redistributed. Technology was their ally. Jesse Colo exploited his access to a courier company to print legitimate-looking shipping labels that falsely declared contents as dietary supplements or fitness merchandise. These labels were often affixed to tubs of protein powder, motorcycle helmets, clothing, or even furniture, anything that could disguise the deadly payload inside. Others were pulled in to serve specific roles. Levante Cameron acted as the face of the network at street level, meeting parcel recipients and moving goods discreetly. Jabari Smith, a gym instructor, used his network to find fresh delivery addresses that could be rotated to avoid patterns. Tarsa Chalmers and Byron Hadgeman allowed their homes to be used as drop points, either through manipulation or for quick cash. Each member played their part in what was, for a time, an invisible supply chain. The gang's methods were so clean, so cloaked in normality, that they evaded law enforcement for months. But even the most polished operation can't run forever. With nearly a dozen people involved, secrets began to slip. And somewhere along the line, someone got careless. With the network now firmly established, Devontae James ruled like a king. His power didn't come from fear alone, but from the allure of wealth, the promise of status, and a carefully crafted illusion. Social media became his throne room. There, he displayed the trappings of success: five-star hotel suites, business-class flights, cigars in the sun, stacks of cash rolled like cigars or held like trophies. To his followers, he was living the dream. To investigators, he was mocking the law. James wasn't just flaunting his wealth, he was weaponizing it. His Instagram was a recruitment tool, a distraction, and a mask. While he paraded through Dubai and lounged in luxury resorts, his lieutenants managed a well-oiled drug trafficking enterprise that pumped crystal meth and cannabis into UK streets with industrial efficiency. The gang's control was rooted in how they disguised their product. Tubs of weight loss powder became the go-to vehicle, blending seamlessly with Britain's booming fitness market. It was a stroke of evil genius, meth concealed inside health supplements. Customs agents saw protein tubs, not poison. The deception bought them time. James's team went to extraordinary lengths to avoid detection. Shipping documents were forged, delivery addresses were rotated weekly, parcels were sometimes redirected mid-transit to avoid tracking. They used GPS drop points, burner phones, and encrypted chats to keep authorities in the dark. They operated like a corporation, with divisions and roles, protocols and backups. Control also came from loyalty. Members were paid well and kept close. Those on the edges, like Chalmers, Hadgeman, and Smith, were often kept in the dark about the full scale of the operation. But those at the core, like Thomas and Taylor, knew everything. And they believed they were untouchable. Even their choice of product gave them control. Methamphetamine isn't just another drug. It's one of the most addictive substances on the planet. Once it takes hold, it doesn't let go. By targeting vulnerable users, the gang ensured a return customer base that would pay any price for their next hit. James held the strings, and for a time, everything moved to his rhythm. Money flowed, parcels landed, and the illusion held. But every empire has its weakness, and this one's was about to be exposed by a single, mislabeled parcel. The gang's downfall began not with a raid, a tip-off, or a betrayal, but with a single parcel at Stansted Airport. In May 2023, Border Force officers were carrying out routine inspections on packages arriving from the United States when one in particular stood out. It was marked as nutritional supplements, yet something about its weight, its smell, or its paperwork felt off. When officers opened the package, the deception was immediately clear. What spilled out wasn't protein powder, but nearly 1 kilo of high-purity crystal methamphetamine and 2 kilos of cannabis. The packaging had been professional, the labelling nearly perfect, but the lie had unravelled. That interception set off alarm bells across multiple agencies. Nottinghamshire Police's Serious Organised Crime Unit was contacted, and within days, a joint investigation had begun involving the UK Border Force and the US Department of Homeland Security. What started as a single seizure quickly spiralled into something far bigger. Surveillance was ramped up. Known associates of James were quietly monitored. Phones were tapped. Parcels were tracked in real time. Every drop point, every address, every handover was recorded. Slowly, the investigators began to map the full scope of the operation, from the Middle East to the East Midlands. The gang remained unaware, continuing their operations with confidence. But cracks had begun to show. A few shipments went missing, questions were asked, new addresses became harder to secure. Meanwhile, law enforcement agents were closing in, gathering damning evidence with each passing week. One critical mistake came when Jesse Colo reused a false courier label format that had already been flagged. It tied multiple parcels to the same source and established a pattern. Another came when Levante Cameron was caught on surveillance delivering a shipment to a house that had already been under watch. The gang was no longer invisible, it was being tracked at every step. By late 2024, the picture was complete. 9 individuals, each playing a distinct role, had been identified. Their movements, their messages, their finances, all captured. All that remained was to bring them in. And when the police moved, they moved fast, striking with the precision the gang had once prided themselves on. The arrests were swift, coordinated, and crushing. After months of surveillance and intelligence gathering, officers from Nottinghamshire Police, UK Border Force, and agents from the US Department of Homeland Security executed simultaneous operations across multiple addresses in late 2024. At 6:43 in the morning, Devontae James was arrested. Bodycam footage captured the moment. Calm but cornered, James said nothing, as he was told he was being detained on suspicion of importing Class A and B drugs, namely crystal meth and cannabis. The illusion had shattered. His luxury flats, designer trainers, and curated online persona couldn't protect him now. Across Nottingham, Dagenham, and London, his co-conspirators were rounded up. Rake Thomas was taken into custody without incident. Lamar Taylor was arrested at a property connected to previous shipments. Can Raymond, believed to be in charge of certain logistical aspects, was located using mobile tracking. Jesse Colo, the courier office manager, was detained at work, the very place he'd helped forge the gang's elaborate cover. Every member of the group had been placed under surveillance. Evidence collected included mobile phones containing encrypted chats, CCTV footage of parcel handovers, financial records detailing unexplained cash, and courier logs manipulated to mask illegal shipments. Dozens of seized packages, when tested, revealed the same chilling formula: methamphetamine hidden in health products. The evidence was overwhelming. Faced with the weight of proof, all 9 eventually pleaded guilty at Nottingham Crown Court in January 2025 to charges of conspiracy to import Class A and B drugs. The press were quick to descend on the case. Headlines highlighted the audacity of using protein powder tubs to disguise meth shipments. Public interest spiked after it was revealed that James had openly flaunted his wealth online while building a criminal empire behind the scenes. Detective Inspector Ian Smith of the Serious Organised Crime Unit didn't mince his words during the post-sentencing briefing. This gang pushed a substance that doesn't just ruin lives, it annihilates them. The fact they masked it behind health products shows how calculated they were. But in the end, their arrogance was their downfall. For James and his gang, the game was over. No more shipments, no more lies, no more illusion. Just the cold certainty of justice. In January 2025, the full weight of justice came down on the operation. Inside Nottingham Crown Court, the once proud empire faced its reckoning. One by one, the gang members stood to hear their fates, no longer influencers or businessmen, but convicted criminals in the largest crystal meth import case in Nottinghamshire's history. Devontae James, the ringleader, was sentenced to 17 years in prison. The court heard how he orchestrated the entire network, from sourcing the drugs to managing logistics, payments, and deception. His social media life, once used to project status, was used in court to demonstrate scale and audacity. Rake Thomas received 11.5 years, described as James's right-hand man, instrumental in coordinating operations and overseeing safe delivery routes. Lamar Taylor was jailed for 7.5 years, while Can Raymond received a 45-month sentence for his role in liaising with suppliers and managing parcel movements. Jesse Colo, whose access to courier systems enabled the forgery of shipping documents, was sentenced to 5 years and 4 months. He had exploited a position of trust in a legitimate business for criminal ends. Levonte Cameron, who assisted in meeting parcel recipients, was handed 38 months. For those on the periphery, community sentences reflected lesser roles, but made clear that participation, however minor, had consequences. The total custodial time handed down approached half a century, a loud and definitive message from the courts. Beyond the prison terms, authorities confirmed proceedings under the Proceeds of Crime Act had commenced. A hearing was scheduled for September 2025, with the aim of stripping all remaining assets from the gang's hands, the Rolexes, the flights, the cash, all now targets for seizure. Detective Inspector Ian Smith summed it up. Their profits are gone, their power is gone, and whatever illusion they created, it ends here. From luxury to lockdown, their empire is in ruins, and their names, once associated with status, are now bound forever to one of the most brazen drug plots Britain has seen. Reaction to the sentencing was mixed. Some felt the prison terms were proportionate, a strong message that drug trafficking on this scale would not go unpunished. For others, particularly in the communities devastated by addiction, the penalties felt lacking. 17 years, one local resident told ITV. He'll be out before my son finishes secondary school, and that man helped wreck half this estate. Critics pointed out that while James and his inner circle faced long sentences, those further down the ladder received community orders. It's not just about locking people up, argued a local councillor. What about prevention, education, addiction support? These kids were used. So the question lingers, is this justice served or just a warning shot in a much longer war?